I'm writing this sentence as a representation of my entire book, which I will not go back and revise until this sentence, being the book, is finished. Okay, last time I did a free association exercise. My wife saw it and said, "You have to do that for every sentence?" So I didn't want to give the wrong impression. You should just write your book the way I just wrote that sentence. Don't think about free associating unless it comes to you while you're writing. Write, finish, don't edit, as I said last time, until you're done. But now that this sentence is done, I want to do one more brief live demonstration, and let's see how many words we can cut out of this sentence and still have it mean what I intended, maybe even clarify the meaning. All right. I think we can get rid of "I'm writing this," or maybe just "I'm writing." This sentence is a representation of my, I think we can cut entire, which I will not go back and revise, which I will not revise until this sentence, being the book, is finished. I think we can cut "being" and say "as the book." I don't know. Maybe "being" is right. And I'd like to make this point. That's how you know when you should be done revising. When you start editing something and then putting it back the way it was, that's a pretty good indication. It's done. Take it out of the oven. All right. So how many words did we cut out of that sentence? Quite a number. You should always cut unnecessary words. All right. I'll get to your questions. The first question is from Jennifer. How can I get my writing noticed? Well, beyond practicing the skills that I've been talking about in this series, I think the biggest single thing you can do is increase the level of need in your story. I'll give you an example. The lowest form of need might be called childish need. That would be a selfish need, or petting the gorgeous babe, something like that. The next level of need could be considered animal needs, like the hunt, just satisfying those kinds of urges, animal urges. Up from that would be ego-driven stories. These would be stories of revenge mostly, or these can be powerfully driven stories, but very limited. Up from that, intellectual needs. These are the caper stories, detective stories, where reason wins the day. Above that, adult stories. And this need is about how does a person grow, or what happens when someone grows up. And finally, visionary. That would be a story about someone who has a new vision to live. You could say the Buddha or Christ. Now, obviously, the higher you can go, the more you're going to get your writing noticed, the better it's going to be, but the harder it is. I tried to write a visionary novel. It's called The Paradise Vendor. I'm not sure. I think I had mixed results. So I bumped it back down to adult needs. And that's what I'm writing about now, the book about my wife. How do two people fall in love and grow together? And I think that's a worthwhile thing to write about. So I'm just going to stay down in my ballpark here and leave the visionary stuff to somebody else. But a good way to get your writing noticed is to do that. An easier way to get your writing noticed if you work in genres, and a genre is simply a system of information that a reader or viewer is already familiar with. You turn on a Western and you know basically the elements of the story. You've got the frontier town and beyond the frontier is lawlessness, and the town represents the law or a new system of living. And you don't have to tell the reader or viewer that. They get all that, and that's the power of a genre. If you want to get your writing noticed, cut against that genre. Do a Western, but do something unexpected. Instead of having a hero that has the virtues we've come to expect from the Western hero, do something unexpected. If you can pull that off, you can get your writing noticed. Our next question comes from Sarah. How can I overcome writer's block? It's a terrific question. I think the best way to overcome writer's block is to specifically identify, if you can, locate what's causing the block. Generally, it's one of two things. Either you're having a problem figuring out generally what you want to write about, maybe the 25 words, you just don't know what the thing is about. Or you do know what the thing is about, and you're having trouble with a specific scene or a specific sentence. If you can identify where your block is, in fact, I would say even go further than that and stop using the term block. There's no such thing as writer's block. There's just something you haven't figured out yet. The next question is from Lisa. How much research should I do? Again, this is a terrific question, and I don't know if there's really a proper answer for this. I do know that research, like writing classes, is the biggest thing people do to actually avoid writing. I've known more than one person who takes a writing class to avoid writing. As long as they're in the writing class, they really don't have to write a book. They can do exercises and complete the course, and it's all laid out for them, but they're avoiding writing. The other thing, it's the same with research. I'm researching a book, but no, you're not. You're just researching. So I would say do the minimum amount of research to get started. Write your book. Then once you know what you're writing about, go back and research it. I would even go further and say finish your book and then research only those areas that you need for credibility. The next question is from Tracy. How can I get a literary agent, commercial publisher? I would say don't waste your time. Learn how to write well. That will get you a literary agent and will get you published. Because, more people than ever are writing books. But that doesn't mean more people than ever are writing good books. It's like a Major League Baseball pitcher. They can add more teams and water down the talent. No matter what they do, there's only a certain number of human beings on this planet at any one time that can throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And it's the same with writing. Learn to write well. It took me 21 years to get a literary agent because my writing simply wasn't saleable until that point. As far as commercial publishing, it's very tough. The argument is the market's always been tough and it'll always be tough. It's much tougher than it was 50 years ago, 25 years ago. And there's not as much stigma now for self-publishing, particularly e-publishing. Numerous authors have self-published and e-published and been spotted by commercial publishers and gone on and had success that way. So again, I wouldn't waste my time. I would spend my time practicing the skills I've been talking about for the last hour or so. And Tracy's question brings up another point. I want to talk briefly about copyright law. There's a lot of writers are worried about their ideas being stolen and they want to copyright them. I would like to just say that copyright only protects the particular manner of expression in written form. In other words, you can't really copyright an idea. Ideas can't really be stolen. It's the development of the idea. It's everything I've been talking about, using your senses, your own particular manner of perception, putting it down on the page in a unique way. That's what's valuable. That has value, and the law recognizes your particular manner of expression in a fixed form as your property. So again, if you want to protect your work, save your first drafts, your outlines, your notes. Don't show them to anybody. If someone rips you off and it goes to court, you got your outlines and your prior drafts, and that's going to save you. What a copyright or registering with the Writers Guild will do, it will make the party that tried to steal your work have to pay your legal fees once you beat them. So, never hurts. And while I'm on this topic, avoid writing scams. People are so anxious to get published and have their movies made and their scripts produced and things. It's real easy to fall prey to these people who are very good. The general rule is don't pay. I publish on the Kindle. It doesn't cost anything. Now, it's one thing if you want to go to a reputable print-on-demand outfit and people pay for the book and it gets printed up, and you might have to pay a fee for that. But just don't pay people to read your work. And there are legitimate agents that do charge. One of them tried to get me to pay him once to read my work, and I said, well, if my work's good enough, I don't need to pay you. If it's not good enough, paying you is not going to matter. And he whispered in my ear, I've been found out. So don't pay. That's the best way to avoid a scam. Our final question comes from someone I've never met. A young man in high school, Lucas, saw my series, emailed me a rather long and passionate email. The gist of it was he wrote a story about something that really happened, and his creative writing teacher said he didn't believe it. It was unbelievable. And apparently Lucas had a meltdown in class. Well, Lucas, I wasn't there. I haven't read your story, but I think you have a problem with context. That's why I did the free association exercise last time with my dad's Roadrunner, and I was getting the context from my father. You can't just pluck something out of your life and stick it into a story. If the context that went with the event has been removed, the event on its own may not seem plausible. So you have to always be aware as a writer about the context. And this leads me into a perfect point about the same. When you're a reader, read all you can. That would be like one of my 3 biggest pieces of advice. If you don't have the time to read, Stephen King says in his book On Writing, you don't have the time to write. When I had a dry spell many years, it's because I stopped reading. One other tip. If you want to, write with the big boys, you got to read the big boys. I remember my wife said she loved the movie Last of the Mohicans and went out and got the book, tried to read it, and said, it's the most awful book I've ever read. It's a problem, again, that Lucas is having in the reverse way of context. If you really want to understand a text, research its time. What was going on when it was written? Understand the values of the day. Maybe the language is always evolving. Learn a little bit about the language of the day. It will pay huge dividends. If you really want to get into writing and you really want to get into reading, learn about intertextuality. And that's how books talk to each other through the ages. Like, Chaucer wrote Canterbury Tales, and somebody else comes along and is influenced by that and responds to Chaucer. And you can see these conversations happening, but you have to learn about context. And it's not valuable because some professor says it's valuable. You have to come to it in your own time, in your own way. But once you do, once you are ready for it, read. And the one other tip I would have about reading, because it's so important, I would say slow yourself down when you write so you can do the sensory images and things. Slow yourself down when you read. Don't be in a rush. Soak in the words. If you don't know what a word means, look it up. Can words still stun you and affect you when you're reading? And I would say the similar thing when you're writing. I think Laurence Olivier, the great actor, once said, never show your top. And I think what he meant was, as an actor, never scream and rant as much as you can, because you have nowhere to go. And it's the same as a writer. And this is the point I would like to make. If you have a woman walking down the street at night and there's a sound behind her and she turns, you said, she turned, terrified. Well, was she really terrified at that point, or was she curious about what the noise was, or maybe apprehensive? Don't use terrified. You've got to make sure that the word choices you use fit what you're talking about. So develop your vocabulary. And I don't mean long words like anti-disestablishmentarianism, but just words like, for instance, my wife came in yesterday, said, "What does the word peruse mean?" And I said, "I think it means, you're just leisurely scanning over something." She said, "That's what I thought it meant. But peruse means to very carefully, analytically check something over." So you've got to know what the definition of words means so you can use them to describe the image. And this is another point I'd like to make. Let's say you're writing a story, and I give you the rule: visualize the scene, not the word. This is what I was trying to get at last time. It's a cop story, and the cop picks up the bad guy, and you write, the cop picked up the bad guy and hurled him through a windshield. It sounds great, but picture that for a second. Really stop and picture that. I don't care if you're the Terminator. You can't throw a person through a windshield. Even if the glass would break and allow them to go through, they wouldn't fit. There's no way. So maybe you could say, cop picked him up, threw him against the windshield, cracked his rib along with the glass, or something like that. This is such a huge point. If you want to get your writing noticed, think about the things that you're writing. I literally make charts, graphs, block the action out, make sure a person can really go from here to here. Can this really happen? And then write it with specific word choices. Your ego is probably, your biggest ally in a way, because it helps you. You got to believe you have something worthwhile to say, or you won't be writing. It's too hard to do. On the other hand, I didn't start writing well until I realized that my ego was holding me back, because it didn't want a differing opinion. It didn't want something that threatened my nice little worldview. And I lived on a tree farm for many years, and out there by yourself, alone, it made me feel small. And at first it was scary, but then it became a very powerful thing, because I opened myself up to other points of view. And when I was writing The Paradise Vendor that I talked about, my attempt at a visionary story, one of the characters I wrote from was a young black man living in inner city Los Angeles. And I went and I talked to some young kids from that area, and really was an eye-opener. And confronted some things about myself and some views I had that, I'm not too proud of. But that really changed my view. To be able to see from another's point of view, just as certain as you are about your faith, somebody else is equally as certain about theirs. And even though I don't have to maybe agree with it, boy, as a writer, I sure do want to go out and understand it and see what that counterpoint is. That's a huge thing. It makes me sad when I think where my writing might be today if 25 years ago someone had told me basic stuff like 25 words, one-page treatment, use your senses. Here's dialogue, go from action to value to being. And all the years I've spent figuring that out, I could have been using it to learn how to do that instead of learning what I was trying to do. I think when my time comes, I'll rest easier knowing that I shared with you. I hope it's been helpful. I hope you've had some fun, and may you always write for joy.